Hi, Frank. Thank you for joining us this morning. How are you?
Good morning.
So it's
Good.
great to see you. And today we're going to talk about one of your great travel companies called Adventure Portfolio. Why don't we start by just giving us a quick summary of how you got started in travel and where these companies came from?
Yeah, so I won't go too deep into it. We did a previous webinar of a brand we have, Adventure International. I spent a lot of time in Tanzania and also Nepal and down in South America. And through essentially running our trekking and mountaineering operations in these different countries, we started getting involved with communities and different, I would say, experiential hotels, I guess. We got involved in glamping and eco camps. And so in order to sort of separate what we were doing with our trekking tour operations, decided to start Adventure Portfolio, which really started to kind of turn into this global eco camp and glamping product. So we'll kind of take you through what we got going on then.
That's great. Yeah. So take us through Adventure Portfolio.
Okay, perfect. So Adventure Portfolio, really the genesis started out with one of our business partners starting eco camps in Peru. The eco camp concept has definitely been around. We didn't pioneer that, but essentially our business partner on private land in the Salcantay area decided to build some eco camps on private land and the communities. So we decided that we would, start to essentially run this eco camp trekking product in the Salcantay Valley. So these eco domes are spread out through various camps along the valley en route to Machu Picchu. The domes have a bed, a toilet, and a shower. So I would say it's like glamping. So for those folks who just really don't want to camp on the ground, this is definitely a step up in comfort. So not quite brick and mortar, still an eco camp, but really beautiful food. There can be masseuses, give people some wine and a beer. There's horseback riding. We can do biking. What's really nice about the eco camps is that you can mix and match. So you don't actually have to commit to the entire route to Machu Picchu. You can actually just do a couple of the eco camps in the lower valleys. I call that more soft adventure. And then you can go into Sacred Valley. You could even do like the last day of the Inca Trail, which is a really, really neat program. So you get a little bit of the experience of hiking and culture in Salcantay area with the eco camps, but then go do like a more traditional sort of Peru program. So
yeah, I love that. When we've talked about it before, the fact that, if you just do the first camp or the first two camps, it's great for families. It's very soft adventure, but you can do a little bit of hiking, etc. But if you're a bit more hardcore, then yeah, you can do the trekking and so forth and stay at all of the different lodges and all the way to Machu Picchu. How would you say it compares to a product like Mountain Lodges of Peru, which I know a lot of people are very familiar with in terms of, say, price tag and experience?
yeah, I mean, listen, Mountain Lodges of Peru is great. We've known them for many years. They, it's hard to say like we compete with them because we actually don't. Mountain Lodges of Peru is brick and mortar. I would say Peru Eco Camp is like right in the middle. It's not camping and it's not the lodge, it's an eco camp. So it's right in the middle, which was also an opportunity that we saw too, right? So also with mountain lodges, you've got set departures. So one of the things around Peru Eco Camp that I find to be really great is that it's privately guided and highly flexible. So if you have a family or you have a couple, they're privately guided and it's just them on their program. Will you run into other people at the dome? Yes, it's kind of like a safari camp in that sense, but that doesn't mean that they're on your program. So that's another thing. There's a lot of flexibility.
That's great. And in terms of sustainability and kind of positive impact, can you just give us a few highlights?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about these ecodomes is that if we needed to pull them tomorrow, I mean, there's really not a lot in terms of trace, right? So there's gray water systems, camps running on solar. We're actually getting like a lot of when people talk about like locally sourced, well, we kind of have to be locally sourced because we're not going to go 100 million miles away to go get food for clients. So when people talk about farm to table, it's all there. Like if you're eating, an alpaca, it's probably from right there, right? So that's all happening. So there's also like gardens and things like that. Plus, the other thing is in terms of which I find to be probably the most important work that I find really in terms of like how I'm showing up in the travel industry is local employment. So hey, like, these camps have spurred up local employment from the guy who's shuttling your luggage on the mules to the ladies who are cleaning to the cook, everybody, right? So,
That's great. So it looks like a great product. Yeah.
um, oops, sorry about that. So heading into Tanzania, um, one of our business partners took over a camp called Lake Natron Camp. And Lake Natron, for a lot of folks who've spent some really good time in Tanzania, is a really, really special area. So Lake Natron is definitely off of the main northern Tanzania tourist track and in its own little pocket. What's really interesting about Lake Natron is the only way to get there is either overland or what we really have kind of coined as a really amazing experience is you can hike to Lake Natron from Ngorongoro Crater. So what we have is this Empekai to Lake Natron hike, and you end it at Lake Natron Camp. This hike is absolutely stunning. It takes you into essentially what is the Great Rift Valley, and you're literally just traversing the Great Rift Valley down into Lake Natron. So Lake Natron is essentially the bottom of where Oldonyo Lengai volcano is. Oldonyo Lengai is an active volcano. And I won't go down too far the Nat Geo track here, but really the history is that essentially Oldonyo Lengai volcano, its ashes and this volcano, because of the way that the wind goes, is what creates all of the fertility in the soils in the plains of the Serengeti. So when we talk about all these ungulates and the Great Migration, it's being fed by this volcano. So Tanzania has a whole bunch of volcanoes, but Oldonyo Lengai is very important. So that's just really what you're staring at Lake Natron. The camp sits at the foot of Lake Natron, like the spring that feeds the whole lake. So this essentially what's happening here is we've got involved in conservation in a big way. So typically, if we weren't stewarding this experience and this camp, a lot of the Maasai who are nomadic, listen, they have livestock, they're doing their thing. They would probably come into an area with the livestock and essentially desertifies the area. So we really wanted to see this place really stay alive and active because lesser flamingos breed at Lake Natron. It's like one of the most important breeding sites on the whole planet because of the algae of Lake Natron. So there's a lot going on here in terms of stewarding the environment. As we've been there, we've seen bigger game now. There's like actual game drives along the lake that you can do. We don't see the cats because there's a hunting conservancy, but one day, I'm telling you, there will probably be lions and leopards at Lake Natron. So that's really exciting. Like you're seeing wildlife coming back. The
Yeah,
hike
and you're
itself,
so remote. It's a
yes.
really, yeah.
And this area is exciting. So what you think of, it's kind of harsh, but when you go on these hikes into what the gorge is, you get to these insane waterfalls and I mean, just like beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I'll kind of go back
Can you
to,
go back to the, yeah, I was going to say while we're
yeah.
talking, I mean, and
So
look at
like
the
we've got
comfort
these,
of the camp. Yeah.
there's like waterfalls and there's like camels in camp. It's just like so exotic. So this is a really, really beautiful experience for people who might be interested in something like Kilimanjaro. They don't think they can do it. Maybe they don't have the time. like hiking to Lake Natron is absolutely beautiful. Nowadays, we've worked to create an airstrip in Lake Natron so we can charter flights in and out of Lake Natron. So for those people who are like, hey, I want to hike for a couple days, but I definitely want to fly to the Serengeti to go see the migration, that can all be tied together really, really easily.
Amazing.
So
And we should say also with all of these products, including Peru Eco Camp, you can pull together the whole itinerary for someone, right? It's not just the
yes, yeah. So a lot of our product is backed by a full operation. So we're flexible. If you just want to do like a little module, that's great. There's a lot of tour operators and agents who do that with us. Or for folks who are like, hey, I need a full Peru itinerary, I need a full Tanzania itinerary. Sure, we can totally help to do that for sure.
Great.
I also wanted to mention that in Lake Natron, there's a ton of community work that's going on out here. So I think for folks like families or people who are really interested in authentic Maasai culture, from schools to beading projects to just so much around Maasai culture, this place is a gem of an area. So there's a lot going on out here in Lake Natron.
That's great.
In Nepal, we got involved in a product called Babai River Camp. And this camp is set up exclusively for clients a couple days before they arrive. Becky and I have had some chats about Bardia National Park in Nepal. Bardia is a really amazing place on the border of India and Nepal, where I was pleasantly surprised after spending some time at really what's going on in terms of big game in this corridor in Bardia. Tigers, rhinos, elephants. I mean, they all come and drink at the river. It's absolutely amazing. I feel that a lot of people on the planet have no idea that there's even like big game in Nepal. Maybe they've heard of Chitwan. Chitwan is very overrun by tourism, and so a lot of the tigers feel really encroached. In Bardia, it's pretty wild still. I mean, the sightings are, you don't have a lot of like intense habituation. So the sightings are really special. These really are still like very, very wild animals.
I feel in Chitwan too that, sorry to interrupt, that
Sure.
you very much have to stick to the routes, whereas in Bardia now, I mean, you can do walking safaris. It's a lot more exciting. You can do glamping like this actually in the national park. You can really kind of get more remote and explore more and have more chance to see excellent wildlife.
Totally. The best sightings I've seen have been on foot. And to be honest with you, I've walked with big game in Africa and felt really safe. There's a ranger with a gun, not that they want to kill an animal, but they shoot it for safety. In Nepal, the guys don't walk around with the gun. So it's definitely like a different, it's very adventurous, but it feels so special when you see game on foot in Nepal. So again, this is a conservation effort on our part to really protect this vital corridor of big game. We're 3 hours close to any other person in the park, so it's very remote. Becky and I've talked about this too. This camp can be combined with more permanent lodging in Bardia National Park, or of course, most people don't just go to Nepal to have a jungle experience. So what we do is we'll do a helicopter from this camp up to the Himalayas, and we'll do, a full trekking program, which we can support. So in the United States, we got involved in a product called American Safari Camp. And so having lived in Tanzania for many years and, we actually got involved in safari camps. This is the product that was really exciting in the United States. What we do is we actually set up full-on safari camps outside of the US national parks. And I'll kind of go through which parks those are. But as you can see, these are like Meru style tents where you have a bed and you have a bathroom in the actual, like an ensuite situation in your tent. And then outside we have a shower. So that shower will serve for every 2 tents. And then in places where we might need some heat, we've got some like wood oven stoves so that clients can be a little bit warmer. So we have a dining tent where we do all of our meals. Now, this is probably very closely associated to what people know as like a game package. So this camp is set up, you have a cook, you have a camp manager, and then you also have a private guide. And so you will be picked up from the closest airport in a really nice SUV. You'll come into camp, all your meals, you'll have beer and wine included. And then from there, you'll do all of your touring in the national parks with your private guide. So this is private and exclusive. So this camp is set up a couple days before you arrive, and the only people in camp are you and your friends and family or whoever booked the camp. So some of the destinations where these camps are set up are Escalante, Grand Canyon, primarily the North Rim, but now that Navajo Nation has opened up South Rim, that's possible now. Lake Powell is on request only. It's actually really expensive, the logistics to set up these camps on the beaches of Lake Powell, but we can do it. Moab, and then Yellowstone and Zion. So these are some of the places where we set the camps up. It's very typical that people probably do like 2 or 3 nights in the camp, and then maybe they go on to something more permanent like Amangiri, Amangani up in Yellowstone, or maybe Sorrel River Ranch in Moab. That does happen a lot. And we can help sort of curate an experience where people are privately guided throughout sort of like a 5, 6, 7 day journey in the United States. So we're really grateful. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say we're really grateful that we had these during COVID. So
yeah, sorry to interrupt, Frank. I think it's worth saying, I mean, it is a stunning product, and we've had a lot of interest in it. It's probably worth mentioning the price tag, because we do get a lot of interest, and then people realize how you know, logistically complicated it is, and therefore the price tag and the service and the level of food, etc. But so give us an idea of pricing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the thing. So now that there's actually like this resurgence of like more glamping product in the United States is very known for like self-drive, sort of do it yourself. I would say that for folks who, I mean, listen, for folks who are Europe or South America and want to come to the United States and have some budget, for sure. And then, you know, for folks who are looking to really kind of do something that's really special with friends and family and really want to, you know, put in some effort. The camps, I mean, in terms of like you're looking at like over $1,000 per person per night for these camps. So these definitely are not camps that I would say are, you know, mid-range and you can just drive up to and do your thing. This is definitely full service. So, but to be honest with you, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that like really the demand. I mean, these really sell out like almost a year in advance. So
I mean, it works really well if you've got a group or a family or a, you know, a corporate retreat or something like that. It's just a bit tricky for 2 people, right?
I think it's really tricky. The magic number is 4. So you've got a lot of like couples traveling together or a lot of families. I would say the biggest, you know, families is the biggest thing, like multi-generational families that want to do something private and exclusive. So
great.
In Kenya, we actually set up private luxury safari camps. And these are also set up a few days before you arrive. And we're able to set them up all over Kenya. So if we want to be up in Laikipia somewhere where we have camels and horses and bikes, that's possible. We can bring in masseuses. We can go be in Samburu. We could be in Amboseli. We can even be in the Masai Mara. Sky's the limit of where these are set up. And, you know, these are full service. So obviously like all your meals, all your drinks, all the guiding, all the activities, it is full on. There is a world where we have enough kit where we could go from one national park to the next one back to back. What gets a little difficult is doing 3 national parks back to back. So you know, typically what people might do is, you know, go to one national park, mobile tented camp, go to maybe a more permanent lodging, and then go back to a permanent tented camp, or 2 mobile camps, and then end it at a more permanent lodging. So that's kind of the way that people do it. So we definitely can do a full Kenya itinerary, mix and match however people want. But I think for people who are looking to do something special, really exclusive and intimate, this is really great. So the reason this came about is Kenya gets really busy. There's a lot of multi-general families that want to go do safari. And there would always just be these little holes of like, where do we put people? So now we actually have a lot of, basically flexibility to put people in the camps. So,
what's the maximum kind of group size for this?
we could up to 20.
Okay, great.
Yeah, up to 20. So we haven't had groups that big, but there's definitely some capacity for sure.
Fabulous.
In Guatemala, we are involved in a product called Trek Guatemala. And it's interesting because I'm actually from Guatemala. And so I hadn't gotten involved in tourism in Guatemala, actually. And it was really exciting to see this. So, I've traversed like the whole country myself too, just with my family. But I think for folks who are really curious about doing Guatemala, hiking between Antigua and Lake Atitlan over a few days is just absolutely stunning. And I mean, Becky has spent so much time in Guatemala herself too. I mean, the views of just the volcanoes and Lake Atitlan and the culture, it's really just such a beautiful, beautiful place. And this trekking isn't like climbing Kilimanjaro. It's definitely a lot more doable. It's through coffee plantations. There's definitely some walking and there's a little bit of elevation for sure. But, these are fully supported Kodiak tents, and the bedding is really comfy, and there's like a little bar set up, and there's a little fire and food. There's a toilet and shower truck that supports this camp, and it moves every day. So it's a couple days, and then of course you spend a little time in Antigua, a little time in Lake Atitlan, and then of course I would encourage people to fly up to Tikal and then end it at the Mayan ruins. So it's a different spin on doing Guatemala. So, typically a lot of people are just sort of driving around everywhere. And this is just a really great way to do it a little bit more active. So
it's a great product. And again, it helps get people really off the beaten track, helps local communities. I know your team, work a lot with local people as part of the team. And again, at Lake Atitlan, as you said about Kenya, it can get, the best hotels can get full, especially around Semana Santa and popular times. It's a great way to have more people be able to access Guatemala in peak times and get more remote. And like you said, those views are just stunning, and the local people are so amazing. So yeah, highly recommend this one.
Yeah. So in Ecuador, we are involved in a product called Yasuni Amazon Explorer. And this is probably, I would say, the most rustic product that we have in the portfolio. And the reason that we are involved in this is actually to kind of go back to sort of what the through line is of what we're doing here. And that is conservation, right? And really making an impact on communities. So by us actually supporting this tented camp in the Amazon, we are protecting really the Amazon from being cut down. There was a logging company that wanted to literally like wipe out this whole section of forest. And because we had this product, they actually are not going to do that. So, I mean, I could tell you that like what it costs for us to do this product is like really not that much. And so for folks who are really adventurous, wanting to, spend some time in the Amazon, this is a really interesting product because you can only get there by boat, or you can kayak or stand up paddleboard into this area. And you've got some like real authentic cultural interactions. The biodiversity is really just through the roof. And so for people who are real kind of aficionados of checking out some wildlife, this is a really interesting product. Now, a lot of people won't just go to the Amazon in Ecuador. We have a full team that can support a full Ecuadorian itinerary. So most people will want to spend some time in the mainland. There's beautiful haciendas to go do things from, like hike, trek, horseback, raft, canyoning, sky's the limit. And then of course, heading out to the Galapagos as well, which sort of kind of brings us to sort of the last sort of product that we got into kind of more recently towards the end of COVID was, we had this Amazon product, and then all of a sudden we had the opportunity to really partner up with a private villa in the Galapagos. And so this was something really new. And this villa is very dedicated to conservation and sustainability and tortoise protection. And so we decided that we would really try and market this product and create like a privately guided land-based Galapagos journey where we have a private yacht to go do excursions, and the villa has a private chef, and tons of activities. So kayaking, biking, hiking, diving, surfing, sky's the limit, really, in the Galapagos. So all privately guided. So that's kind of a big theme with pretty much all of the product in the portfolio, is that all of these experiences are privately guided. So there's a lot of flexibility. They're all curated. So none of this stuff is group departures. So it's all FIT. Yeah.
Looks stunning. Thanks
That's
so much.
So far, more coming soon.
More to come. Yeah, thank you so
There's some
much.
other product on the horizon, but I can't really say much.
Top secret
of
for
what's
now.
going on. Yeah, for now,
So thanks so much. And for people listening, we've also done a webinar on Frank's other brand, Adventure International, which focuses, tell us what that focuses on, Frank.
Yeah. So Adventure International is really a, essentially we're a trekking and mountaineering operator. And so we do treks and climbs all over the world. So in a lot of these places that I talked about, really, some of the main places would be Tanzania, Kilimanjaro, Himalayas, Nepal, Ecuador, but we also do stuff in the Alps, and then some of the bigger 7 summit peaks as well.
Brilliant. So if that's of interest, do check out that short 25-minute webinar. And we'll also be doing one on Lux Surf brand, and also do one just on Kilimanjaro to help you understand Frank's excellent outfitter there, and how to better sell it, etc. So thanks so much for your time, Frank.